Hello, hello, hello. This is Emily Eldridge. I am the host of your show, Inner Work for Greater Good. I'm also the founder of Change Light and the creator of the Change Light system. And I teach you inner work that accelerates your power to change the world. This is a system I developed myself. You can hear all about it in previous episodes. And I'm very proud of it, frankly, because it's really changed my life and changed a lot of other people's lives. And so I'm really, really grateful to be the one in the world who's bringing this to the world and been able and able to get people so many wonderful results and so much freedom from their inner struggles. So if this is your first time watching my show, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. And if you've been watching, yay, how very cool. I must be doing something right if you're continuing to tune in, or maybe even binge watching for all I know. But anyway, so, speaking of the drawing out process and speaking of the Change Light system, I often in my show kind of peripherally refer to it because there's certain techniques in there that are very simple, but they're very, very powerful. And I teach those in my online community, in which you can find a course that teaches you the very, very simple techniques that are within the Change Light system, as well as the discoveries. Now, I have shared a lot about the discoveries here. You can see those previous episodes. I talk about the 3 types of X powers, the 3 types of M powers, how M powers become X powers. I talk about your inner truth. I talk about your guiding star. And my whole intention, sorry, I'm like looking for my pen here. My whole intention is to teach you the truth about what's going on inside of you so that you can be freed of struggles, but also access the incredible powers and wisdom and strengths that are inside of you, because you have all of the power that you need to be who you are here to be, to do what you came here to do. You have your own unique truth. You have your inner guiding star that's showing you who you are when you're fully living your truth. It's meant to be an inspiration and a guide along the way, along the journey. But we also have those X powers. We have those M powers. Our M powers are the 3 parts of us whose purpose is to empower us to live our truth, to shine our brightest light, to be our absolute best selves. We are not alone in this journey of being our best selves. And what I mean by that, I mean on the inside, we're not alone. We have the inner support as well as hopefully the outer support that we need that says you can do this, and we believe in you and we love you, and that provides you with the wisdom, the guidance, the humor, the joy, the intelligence, the I was going to say strategery. That's not really a word, is it? But the ability to strategize, the ability to figure out, the ability to know, your intuitive sense. Obviously, I'm talking about the 3 M powers here. So my point is you have those, and you also have X powers. We have those inner blocks and struggles that get in the way of us fully feeling at peace with ourselves and fully feeling empowered. And as I talk about quite at length, their intention, those inner struggles, those blocks, those triggers, those blind spots, those, to use other people's terms, parts of the pain body, parts of the ego, parts of the shadow, those are the things that often consciously and subconsciously get in the way of us really stepping into our truth and our light and our power. And so also the Change Light system and the drawing out process that I developed and that I teach are all about healing those. And my intention is always, and I promise I'm sharing all this for a reason, my intention is always to permanently heal whatever X power, or maybe it's a group of X powers, within one session, 2 to 3 hours, that we permanently heal that X power, that inner struggle, that block, that wound, that blind spot, that part that's in your shadow that's been lurking there and getting in your way. Within 2 to 3 hours, the drawing out process permanently heals those, or one at a time, sometimes more than one at a time, to be honest with you. In the past, I've shared the classic inner conflict between, what maybe like certain psychologists or therapists might call, you've got your critical inner parent and your inner child, and it's usually like a wounded inner child. And so oftentimes inside what we have basically almost like a replay, or sometimes even an exaggeration of the ways that we were treated by our parents. And so that's that critical parent figure that we can have inside of us. which I call an inner controller. That's a type of inner controller. And then we also have the wounded child, which is, and we'll actually have multiple children, by the way. There's not just one inner child, just as there's not just one inner critical parent. And so the point is, though, we have these childlike parts of us, usually childlike parts, and I call them wounded, that are carrying that pain and that sense of helplessness and hopelessness and, worthlessness or fear or anxiety or all these other feelings that we have because of how we were treated growing up. And so the point is that sometimes in one drawing up process session, I can heal both of those simultaneously. And the way that can often work, just in case you're curious, is that, for example, usually in that situation, you'd have the critical parent who's attacking the child. So the child is upset. And sometimes when I'm working with someone, that child might actually show up first. And then eventually we realize that, oh, wait a minute, there's something that's causing this child directly within the person, causing it to be in pain. So then the onus is, so that's like, where's the onus of struggle, if you will, is kind of how I see it. And so it's like, then you've got to heal that parent character inside, that parent type, critical parent type X power inside, in order for the child to feel at peace. So that's often how you can actually heal more than one at a time. So it's really amazing, magical, incredible stuff. And I say that humbly. I say that gratefully. I'm just blown away that I get to do this work and that I get to help people heal from things that maybe they spent years going to therapy to try to fix, to try to heal, to try to understand. And yet 2 to 3 hours, we can heal that part that's carrying that wound, or that's, being that inner critic, or that's causing them to feel defensive or put up walls or barriers away from other people, you see? So that's what the drawing out process does. And when we do that, we actually transform those X powers back into N powers so that they can fully support you and empower you in really lighting up and living your truth. And so what happens is it's like these X powers transform into M powers and kind of come together in the 3 types of M powers. And so then it's a matter of calling forth those M powers to receive that energy, to receive that wisdom, to receive that light that's just there in service of the truth, capital T truth, that you are here to live. And the guiding star is also part of that truth. It's that vision that we carry of who we're here to be, doing what we came here to do, fully free of fears, feeling our most wonderful and empowered self. So my point is, that's just a quick overview. Again, if you haven't seen my previous episodes about the Change Light system, it's a complete system of personal self-development. Actually, not just personal, it's also professional too. I use it in professional settings a lot, and use it for people who are having professional troubles, which are almost always personal troubles under the surface. So, but the point is that it's a complete system of self-development. That's all, the whole purpose is to empower you to light up and live your truth and be your most extraordinary self, because you are extraordinary, because you are filled with light that you may not even realize is there, that's maybe stuck somewhere in struggle. So to that point, I realize that was a long introduction, but I wanted to give you some context. So I'll be, humbly, but also proudly, my work is really, really powerful, and it really, really works. And I use it on myself all the time. I talk to my inner guiding star. I draw out my struggles. Just the episode, I drew out one of my struggles, like a block that I was feeling. I think it was the last episode. Yeah, this like block I was feeling in my throat. And I just drew sort of the glob that was there. And then I ended up processing it. And now it's funny because I don't even remember what I talked about, because it's gone. It's not there anymore. And that's the whole purpose of the drawing out process and of my work, is to have that freedom. So my work works really well, and I use it on myself all the time and at the same time. At the same time, I really want to give a shout out to some of the other techniques that I've learned over the years and that I still use today, because we have all kinds of different struggles inside of us. I would never deign to say that all of your inner struggles are because of X powers. No, because the reality is, this sort of on a chemical level, sometimes there may be some chemical elements to why we have emotional issues or struggles. Sometimes we could have had an injury, so there may be some damage to the brain. And so, there are plenty of other factors that can cause inner struggles or cause us to have emotional problems. But also because sometimes the inner struggle that we're dealing with, let me just put it this way. In my work, I'm dealing with like a part of the person. So like a sub-personality, you might say, like I said, inner critic or critical parent or a block or a wall. I've talked to a lot of walls. Or basically it's sort of like a chunk inside you, almost like an energetic chunk that's carrying certain, it's like encoded, if you will, or it's been impacted by fear and pain, and therefore it carries certain thoughts and beliefs and feelings and fears and behaviors, and it causes us to behave in different ways. So what's good about when you draw out a part of that, you're not just dealing with like one belief that it has, you're actually dealing with sort of the group or compendium of stuff that's going on inside of it, so that as you heal that part, you're actually releasing those old limiting beliefs at the same time. You might be releasing more than one. You might be releasing more than one emotion. It could be a mixture of sadness and anger within that part that you're actually releasing and healing so that you can feel more at peace. However, sometimes, and this is what I found, sometimes what I'm struggling with isn't like when I tune in and I'm like, what's going on with me? It may not necessarily be like a chunk inside of me or a part. It may simply be a belief. It may simply be a resistance to what I'm facing. It may simply be that I just need someone to just hear me. I just need to get it out of my system and I'll feel better. It may be that it's actually like past life, or that it's like we're not talking about a chunk inside this sort of self here, if you will. We're talking about a chunk that may have been taken or lost or whatever on a more soul level. Now, I don't know what your beliefs are. I'm open. I've said this before in previous episodes. I'm open. You know what I believe in? I believe in whatever works. So that's why, for example, when it comes to certain spiritual beliefs, I'm like, if your beliefs help you feel more at peace and more empowered, then so be it. And if it makes you a better human being and more accepting and loving of others, then there you go. When I'm talking about the soul, however you conceive that is fine. The way I see it is that we all have a soul, and that just as we can get fragmented within ourselves, like in this lifetime, obviously I believe in reincarnation as well, or at least that we have multiple lifetimes, that this isn't our only trip around the sun, if you will. Does that trip around the sun? That's just 1 year, whatever. This isn't our only stint on planet Earth. Is that I believe that just as we can get fragmented, so when I talk about X powers, those are like inner fragments that form as a result of our life experiences. I also believe that our soul can get fragmented as well because of the experiences that we've had, because of maybe the traumas or the conflicts or the whatever that we've had with other souls. Maybe they've done things to us, or they've caused certain parts of us to feel broken or afraid. And I'm not the best person to talk about this because I don't do this particular modality. But my point being that I'm going to share another modality that I've done. You may do this yourself. You may be one of these types of healers. But I just wanted to say that, sometimes we can also lose parts like that. So no amount of trying to do this healing here, I have found, sometimes it's like, no, I need that kind of help. I need something beyond what I am capable of doing for myself. And so the point is, this is a really long intro and it's been like 15 minutes already, but I wanted to say that there are 4 types of modalities that I use in addition to my own work, the drawing out process. The first one that I want to mention, and I'm doing them in order of like, what can you do yourself? Okay. So the first one I want to mention, this was, this one is probably one of the modalities that I was really blown away by how much it worked and what an effect it had on me. And that is Byron Katie's The Work. You may be familiar with it, you may be not. I highly, highly recommend you look it up. I believe it's thework.org, but look up Byron Katie, The Work. The work is something you can do on yourself. People like to have others do it to them, which is fine. But one of the reasons why I love it is because it's something you can actually sit down and do it on yourself. And as Byron Katie loves to say, all war belongs on paper. So what you're doing when you do the work is you're taking a stressful thought. So let's say I have a stressful thought. And by the way, I am not certified in this, so I don't want to, you really just got to do your own looking at this. But I've done this for many, many years on myself, and I found it very effective. So the work has 4 questions. You take a stressful thought. So the stressful thought could be like, my husband doesn't care about me, or I never get anything right. I don't know, make up something that's causing you stress. And you take that thought through the work. And the work is or inquiry, I think she also calls it. It's 4 questions and a turnaround. And so you can look this up again. She's got worksheets on her website. The first question is to ask yourself about that question. Is that true? And then the second question is, can you absolutely know that that's true? And then the third one is basically, how do you feel when you think that thought? How does it impact you? What are your reactions, etc.? And then the fourth question is, who would you be without that thought? And then the fifth, the turnaround, is basically where you take that thought and you turn it around and you write its opposite. So it could be, make it simple, my husband doesn't care about me. It could be, my husband does care about me. It could be, I don't care about my husband. And then you write reasons why those things could also be true. And so what I love about this approach, really love about this, is it basically calls you to question your own thoughts and to really go, well, wait a minute, this is going through my head, or I'm carrying this as though it's true. I never even asked myself if it is true. I've just assumed that it's true, or I've been living my life according to this idea. I've been reacting to situations based on this belief. And so what I love is it's a very simple way of basically, you're like undoing the programming in your own mind and inside of you to really start to, the impact I find is there's like this loosening, like this, like suddenly you go, and it, I don't know if this is the right word, but like the word that's going to mind is like deconcretizes. In other words, if that thought is like so concrete in your head and then it kind of starts to dissolve, and you go, wait a minute, I always thought that was true. And well, what if it's not? And while that may sound unsettling in some ways, it's actually not. It's very, very freeing. And it's very calming. I find it very calming. And it helps me to see beyond the blinders that I'm wearing because of that belief that I've been carrying. So the work is a technique that I highly recommend you try. I really, really love it. And that's good for tackling specific beliefs. So if you notice that you have a specific belief that's causing you stress, then the work is fantastic for that. The second one I want to share with you is what I call the Sedona method. And a friend introduced me to the Sedona method, a couple of friends of mine, because they went and they actually did some like week-long things. And they came back just absolutely radiant and just in the states of like total bliss and peace. And the Sedona method, I believe the story is that it was developed by a gentleman who I believe had cancer, or he was diagnosed with something. And so he created this technique to, in a different kind of way, question his own thoughts and beliefs, or at least allow his energy to release them. Again, look up Sedona method, as in Sedona, Arizona, Sedona method. I don't know if it's sedonamethod.org, I don't remember. But the point is that that's a series of questions that are really good to ask yourself. And what I find is it's this kind of like, and so I may do this incorrectly because I actually do sort of my own variation on it. But usually one of the first questions is, can you just accept? One of the questions is, can you just accept that? So it's basically, when I mention that resistance to what is, we can oftentimes unconsciously be resisting reality. I mean, there's no point in resisting reality. Let's just put it that way. That's not to say the reality can't change. But if things are a certain way right now, trying to resist reality creates pain and struggle. Eckhart Tolle talks about this a lot, and Byron Katie does too. And so it's all about just saying, can you just accept that? So it could be, this person's really late to come meet you and you're getting really agitated. And it's like, they shouldn't be doing this. whatever, you might be having, or you might be having some resistance, or I may be using a bad example. I apologize to the Sedona method experts out there. But the point is that sometimes what I find is that to help calm myself down, or to help me to just kind of relax and embrace what is, that's a really good question to ask. Like, can you just accept that this is what's happening? Oh, I'll give you another example. Actually, in a previous episode, I talked about something that was really frustrating to me, because I couldn't believe that certain people were behaving a certain way. I couldn't believe that they were, I'm like, why would you do that? It's just so baffling to me. And so part of my method, actually, for accepting the reality of what they were doing and how they were choosing to show up, was I would ask myself, can you just accept that they're not interested in blah, blah, blah? Can you just accept? I did another episode in which I said they just don't effing care. And so sometimes I'll get really upset when I see some kind of injustice, or I see people acting in certain ways where you're like, how could you even think that way? And sometimes it helps to just say, can you just accept that this is where they are right now? Can you just accept that they're not choosing to treat you with the respect that you might choose to treat them? Can you just accept? And so even as I say that, it's like it takes down some of that temperature inside of me to go, yeah, I mean, I may not want to accept it, but what's the reality? So that's a really good question. And I'm blanking on the, there's a whole series of questions about with the Sedona method that's like, could you, would you, when, and now. And again, look at the Sedona method and you'll find the techniques in there. But there's a cool series of questions as well that helps to kind of shift thinking and energy around situations in life and inner conflicts. Okay, so 2 more. Here's one that's really super simple. I mean, you could call it a technique, but frankly, it's just, I mean, it is a technique, but it's really something that could be used pervasively no matter what. And that is active listening. Now, I put these in order of like, what can you do yourself and what do you need others for? So the work in Sedona method, you can do those yourself. You can sit down and take yourself through the processes, and that's really fantastic. So that's great to have those tools. Or if you've got a partner who wants to do it with you, you could do it together. Active listening, most of the time, it's most effective when you use someone else, when someone else is doing it with you, although I've done it for myself with parts of me. So active listening is very, very simple. It's basically when you've got 2 people who are talking and one person is speaking and the other person mirrors back what they're hearing. And maybe they do it verbatim, or maybe they paraphrase what they're hearing. But having that person express, this is how I'm feeling, this is how I'm perceiving this situation, this is what's going on inside of me. And then having someone reflect that back and validate, it's like reflect that back, creates this amazing feeling of validation. Not necessarily agreement, but validating those feelings, validating that perception, saying basically, yes, I hear you, I see you, I understand. So active listening, I found, is so freaking simple, and yet it can absolutely help. If we did active listening more in our daily lives and every interaction, at least just put those in there, especially when someone's sharing something intense with us, or it's a situation where they need to feel heard and we need to show them that we're hearing them. Active listening is an incredibly, ridiculously simple, but incredibly powerful tool to use. And so what I find is that if I'm struggling with something, and let's say I often turn to my husband because he's a really good listener, but occasionally, just like we all do, he'll go into trying to fix it. And sometimes I'll say, sweetheart, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to hear me and just let me know that you're hearing me. And so sometimes he'll do that. He'll do active listening. Okay, I hear that you're saying this. I hear that you're struggling with this. I'm really sorry that you're feeling this way. And he says it genuinely, not like I'm sorry about that, but genuine. So that active listening is a really powerful tool that anytime you're running into someone also, here's another way to use it too, for ourselves and for others. Like if I'm doing it for myself, I might, if I've got a part of me that's angry or sad, I will say to it, I can hear that you're sad. I know that you're angry. And by doing that, that's validating the feelings within that part of me. which helps it calm down. And as it calms down, then I can think more clearly and I can move forward more clearly, not clouded by these maybe misperceptions or distorting emotions. So active listening is really important, but also when you've got someone who's in meltdown. I actually use this one, well, I use this a lot, but one of my stepdaughters was having complete and total meltdown, just complete meltdown, could not be soothed, just, and we kept saying, well, trying all these different things. And then finally, she just like shut down and just laid on the bed. And I just laid next to her and I just listened to her and I didn't argue with anything she said. I didn't try to fix it. I didn't try to understand. I just said, hey, what's going on? And she started saying how she was feeling. All I did, and she was still really upset, but all I did was repeat it back. Yeah, you're really angry about this. And then she'd say something else and I'd say, gosh, yeah, I can hear that you're really sad. Or I'd repeat exactly what she said back. And it was like magic, the way she just got calmer and calmer and quieter. And then eventually the thing that we wanted her to do that had like set her into this total meltdown, because under the surface, she was afraid she couldn't do it well. Even though we'd been encouraging her, she was still like, I can't do it. And so all of a sudden, literally just a few minutes of doing active listening with her, without anything, she just popped up, went in the other room, did the thing, and was like, okay, let's go now. So this is one of the ways that we can really, really affect great change and calming and conflict resolution as well within ourselves and with others. Finally, and I already referred to this before, but the final technique that I use, and the reason why I actually even thought of this today to talk about this is because I just made an appointment with this particular woman who does this kind of healing, and that's shamanic healing. Now, you may be a shamanic healer. You may have done shamanic healing. I don't know. Or you may have no clue what I'm talking about. I will tell you that I've done one shamanic journey. I did it a couple of years ago. And I'd heard of it a million times, but I'd always just sort of was like, oh, Native American, like or indigenous peoples. I didn't know anything other than that. And so, but I was going through a really, really rough time, and I'd done so much healing on myself, like so much deep healing. And yet it's like there was stuff that just wouldn't resolve. And I kept having intrusive thoughts, even though I was out of the situation. I kept being like tortured by this stuff. And I kept feeling this like toxic connection with this other person. And it was extremely upsetting and really frustrating, because it was like, oh my God, I want to be free of this. And I'm doing everything I can to be energetically, emotionally free of this. And yet I wasn't. Well, so I think all I did was just literally like research New York City energy healing, because I thought I know I need something that I personally cannot do on myself. And I needed something sort of out of the realm of this kind of work. And sure enough, I ended up finding this wonderful woman who does shamanic healing. And interestingly, she used to live in New York City and now she lives in Los Angeles. But I still found her through doing that Google search, and she's fantastic. And the point is, she does the kind of shamanic healing where it's all about retrieving pieces from, whether it's from past lives or this life, to basically bring these pieces back to my soul so that I could feel whole again and not keep having a toxic, any kind of unhealthy connection with other people who maybe have taken those pieces from me, or maybe I've also taken pieces from them. And so sure enough, I went through a journey with her, and we retrieved 5 pieces, and she identified what those were, and I allowed them to integrate. And I felt so much better, and I stopped being as tortured. I had to sort of process some more. I had to let those parts integrate fully, but I'm not even remotely as triggered or tortured or upset about that whole situation anymore. And that person with whom I'd had that toxic connection, whatever, she's whatever now. It's like, she's still toxic. She's her, does her own thing, but I don't feel this weird, inexplicable connection, toxic connection with her, because I was able, my healer was able to actually, with her guide, retrieve a piece that she had taken from me. And apparently I'd also taken a piece from her. And so there's healing in that way as well. So I hope this is helpful. Just as someone who does constant inner work on herself, I hope it's helpful for you to see how I go about it, you know, where it's like I've got my drawing out process and I talk to my X powers and M powers, but I also apply, you know, I use other techniques, and I've actually found that, for example, the work has really, really influenced my work. So we're all on this journey together, and we all have our different modalities that work in different ways because we all have different types of struggles or situations that need different types of healers and healing. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've learned something. And if you have any questions, as always, you can email me, Emily@changelight.world. I would also love for you to join our community at changelight.world/community and take the course, learn the drawing out process, learn the Change Light system. All right. Mwah. I'm so happy to get to talk to you like this, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. Bye.